So
Are we winning with the interpreters? Malifani?
Hey, sio utakuwa grab.
I'm speaking. Oh, okay.
Yo.
No, mute. It's not supposed to do like that.
Must be so is there. Yo, it's eerily quiet.
I think we should start. It's 10 past. Linda, are we all system to go?
Because I got an email that says the interpreters are ready to go. So I'm not sure what that means. We can hear you even if you are whispering, just mute. Whoever is whispering there, just mute.
Yes. Can we get an indication that everyone has joined so we can start? It's on YouTube. Okay. Thanks, Linda. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and hope we all well in the morning. We are virtually in the Free State, And I want to welcome all in this provincial dialogue of the province of the Free State. Maybe let's allow another minute or so, and then we will just we see the numbers are coming in terms of the attendance, and then we'll start in the second. All right. Once again, let me just welcome everyone who has made it today. We will ensure that we keep check of all those that are in the lobby to ensure that everybody is welcome and is allowed to join in. May I just greet you all in this morning. My name is Fiso. Mtombela is my surname. I work for the South African government stationed in the National Agricultural Marketing Council, which is the advisory agency for the Department of Agriculture and Reform and Rural Development. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you into this provincial dialogue. We are gathered today as part of the national dialogues that are basically running to solicit some of the input and also ensure that we open up in terms of receiving the voices around the creation of the national food system for the South Africa. We are very much very excited this morning, as it's a first of the provincial dialogues after the first one, which was launched on the 11th of June 2021 by the Minister, Mayor Tokoti Tiza. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are gathered to ensure that we are doing a dialogue in the province of the Free State to ensure that we do get those consultations, we do get all the social partners and the stakeholders in the Free State to ensure that we build up on the sustainable food system of the country, and ensuring that specifically we look at those strategies and actions that will ensure that the food system, particularly the contribution of the province of Free State, is taken into account. I will not take much, as we know that nowadays we we're working against most of the time constraint, but I would like maybe just very few, in a few minutes, just house rules to request everyone that is in attendance to ensure that we do switch off our mic so that we allow those that are on the platform not to be interrupted. And if we also can switch off our cameras so that we ensure the interception as well as the network is not interrupted. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very exciting program today. We'll ensure that we go through it, where we ensure that we provide a clear platform for everyone to contribute into this provincial dialogue on the food system, as we do know that it is working as part of the country's efforts to ensure that it creates a national national position that will contribute to South Africa at participating in the UN food system, which will take place later on in the year. May I then, as part of my welcoming, ensure that I first recognize our Mama Uvangile Titi, our national convener of this South African national dialogues on the UN food systems. May I then also welcome and recognize the presence of our HOD in the province in Tatemasting, as well as our MEC in Tatebulan, and all those that are in presence. I do recognize you all. I also recognize the senior government officials in the province. I recognize all our industry captains. I recognize our leadership from the labor formation, as well as the communities. all the stakeholders involved in the agriculture and food system in the province, you are duly recognized. With then, in that sense, as we know that today, in terms of this provincial dialogue, it is gathered to ensure that in partnership with the MEC of the province, Ndadebulane, in collaboration with the National Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, Umama Ochogo Titiza. Ladies and gentlemen, may I then ask the HOD to just give us the welcome and ensure that we continue with our national dialogue. Ndade Masiteng, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ndombela, for the opportunity. Let me also take this opportunity and recognize the presence of our MEC, MEC William Bulani, and also recognize the farmers who have taken time, and the industries, as you have rightfully indicated, the stakeholders in general who have joined this dialogue. Let me start first by just giving an indication that as a province, we welcome this initiative. And as you know that as a province, we are strategically located for agricultural purposes. And also, Chair, through your permission, let me just give you an indication that Umam Vangile, actually she's from Free State, the convener of this dialogue. And we are grateful because she has seen it important and essential to start where she actually comes from. So we welcome that, Mam Vangile, and we appreciate it as a province.
Thank you.
Let me just start first by saying we have noted the theme, which is leveraging public-private partnership towards scaling up food systems solutions in South Africa during and beyond COVID. And as a province, we have decided to participate mainly in this topic that is building resilience to vulnerability, shocks, and stresses. This is informed by the fact that, yes, indeed, we are now in the new normal after we have been not only as a province, but as a country, as a nation, experienced the COVID-19 pandemic, which has got its own effect, which has got its own challenges. But what is important is the fact that the sector itself performed fairly well despite those challenges. And by so saying, you will note and recognize the reality that, as I've indicated, the COVID-19 pandemic itself, it has brought the challenges, but it has also brought its own opportunities, which are centered around the realization of starting to focus more on the agro-processing value adding. We have realized that when we were confronted with challenges of marketing, we then realized the importance of beginning to focus on agro-processing and value adding. The sector, the province itself has contributed significantly. I'm not going to talk about the statistics. There is a presentation which will be done by our colleagues, as we have earlier indicated. The presentation will begin to focus on the contribution the sector is making, the province is making in general. And we appreciate and recognize the commitments our farmers have shown despite these challenges. Our farmers have contributed. We had quite a number of challenges which we're confronting, or which we are confronted with as a sector. We had the outbreaks of diseases, we had the field fires, we had heavy rains, but despite all those challenges, the sector performed fairly well. Let me not be long-winded, Chairperson, but let me conclude by citing from the former state president, Utata Nelson Mandela, and I quote, he once said, overcoming poverty is not a task of charity. It is an act of justice. Like slavery and apartheid, poverty is not natural. It is man-made, and it can be overcome and eradicated by the action to be created. You can be that great generation and let your greatness blossom, close quote. With that, Chairperson, you are mostly welcomed to the province, and also we welcome the initiative as a province, and we are grateful. And with your permission, let me take this opportunity and invite our Honorable MEC to have a discussions with us, to do the opening remarks as per the program, Chairperson. Thank you very much. Honorable MEC.
Thank you very much, Dr. Masipian. Thank you very much, Dr. Sifiso Ntombela, our presenters, Dr. Shadrach Mepedi and Dr. Ikachen Hakati, convener Mevangile, departmental staff present, guest. The food system summit dialogue takes place at a time our province is officially on the third wave of coronavirus. The strides and the effort by the Free State provincial government led by the Honorable Premier Nosisi Ntombela to curb the spread and save lives are commendable. Just on the 23rd June 2021, we officially kickstarted to vaccinate teachers who are also on the frontline workers during this pandemic. Today, we have converged in this platform to deliberate. Can you hear me now?
May I ask our IT and the colleagues to just assist us so that we ensure we hear the welcoming remarks from our MEC, just to ensure that the system is operational and is not conflicting with the interpreters. MEC, apologies for that. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Doctor. So today, we have converged in this platform to deliberate on a national food system under the theme called Building Resilience to Vulnerabilities, Shocks and Stresses in the National Food System. The agricultural sector in our country is highly productive, but also highly dualistic. The dualistic entails a small number of large commercial farmers, which are predominantly white old farmers, alongside a large number of subsistence farmers, predominantly black farmers. This dualistic agrarian agriculture reflects the historic patterns of the racial and gender oppressions, class dominance, land dispossessions, and economic exclusion. This has resulted in the triple challenges of poverty, inequality, unemployment that we have faced with today. Program Director, allow me to cluster the challenges that are confronting the food system without going into details, because we can take the whole day discussing them if I can go into details. So they are: smallholder farmers consist of growing forces that lacks access to resources, commercial farmers, sophisticated but facing an uncertain future, food industries, market dominance, and increasing industrialization, squeezing out small players. Consumers, more than half of the South African population cannot afford a healthy diet. Population growth, increase in food demand from a growing population, which changes the consumption patterns, technology, highly mechanized farming, and the use of advanced agro-processing technologies contribute to a loss of jobs, increasing unemployment, and the research institution, academic excellence, but information shared and skill developed for smaller farm is still a gap. In terms of our nature and the environment, food production is regarded as the largest contributor to biodiversity loss, soil degradations, and deforestations, to mention a few. Water scarcity escalates and leads to declining water quality that eventually causes widespread damage to the marine ecosystem. Some of the signs that are demonstrated food system problems are the evident increased trend, such as food poverty, malnutrition, hunger, lack of dietary diversity, child stealing, and obesity epidemic brought on by people eating high calorie processed food with a little neutral value. This situation poses threat to public health, and the most food insecure, which are of the poor, are affected. The food industry is categorized by barriers to entry to market and market concentration, with few producers and retailers company that determines and influence the market option, supply the policy, the marginalization of small-scale farmers owing to a lack of market integration, particularly among economically disadvantaged groups, remain a problem. Colleagues, water, soil, and climate are the three primary natural resources that determine the potential of a farm. Access and availability of water influence the value of that land. Therefore, we must understand that the Water Act serves to protect, conserve, manage, and control the resources for the benefit of the country. I want to encourage all farmers to obtain water licenses and comply with the 11 categories of water use. Those who construct illegal dams, catchments, and siphoning water illegally must be brought to books and account for their actions. Water is a scarce and must be protected. In conclusion, Program Director, the transformation of the food system is necessary. However, the transformation changes in food system should include a collective action with a differentiated responsibility. I call upon you to use this dialogue as an opportunity to reflect, engage, meaningfully explore collectiveness, and emerge resiliency with solution and intervention of sustainable food system in our country and the province. Stay sanitized regularly, wear a mask, inform all the elderly above the age of 60 to go register for the vaccination and ensure that we continue the social distancing. Relax, enjoy, and let's have a constructive and fruitful deliberation for our people. I declare this dialogue open. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable MEC. Thank you very much, Ndadebula, for those very insightful inputs that you have provided. Indeed, we very much appreciating for opening this provincial engagement. We certainly are very a clear message you have provided there around in terms of the importance of the Free State, in terms of building this resilient and sustainable food system. I think MEC, you've touched in on very critical points around building the food system that is also adaptive to the changing climate, take into account also the constraint that the country faces in terms of the water shortages and other challenges that we face in our life. I think MEC, you also touched in terms of very importance of the potential that the country has in ensuring that it provides food and making sure that no one is left behind in terms of access and in terms of having availability into the food, but not only just food, but the most safe and nutritious food. And I think later on in terms of our program, as we'll get the provincial presentation now that would give us the sense in terms of the food and the agricultural system in the province, in terms of the state, in terms of the potential that the province has, as well as in terms of how can it contribute into the country's effort in creating the food system that works for everyone. Dr. Masiteng touched on also in terms of how important the province is, and even went further by ensuring that he does make us be aware that our convener, Mama Uvange, comes from the province. So this really becomes a sort of a trendsetter in terms of what will come up or we can expect from the different provinces. But not only that we are starting with the province, it's because this is the province in terms of the statistics that was released by State SA last year, apologies for that. We do know that in terms of the farm units, out of the 40,000 commercial farm units that are in the country, the province of the Free State is actually one with having the majority of the number. But not only that, in terms of the importance of the province, it is one of the top creators in terms of job creation. As we know that the agricultural sector not only provide food, but it also an important job creator. But it also in terms of the generation of income that is generated from the agricultural operations, the province comes second only after the Western Cape province. So this is, if we are to be learning in terms of the actions and the strategies that are required for a country to ensure that it builds resilient and adaptive food system that will ensure everybody has access into nutritious food, this is the right province to start learning from. This is the right province to start understanding how can we build those adaptive systems. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not want to give you more information in terms of how the dialogue will go in, but I'm hoping that everybody has access in terms of the program. What we're gonna have now, if I could just quickly just enlighten you on that front, we will have a very detailed presentation from Professor Sue Walker. Then later on, we will hear from Calvary. Then, because this is not just us coming in here to listen, we will then open up in terms of the discussions, in terms of the insight, as Dr. Masiteng already alluded in his welcome also, where he says, we have the farmers that understand really what needs to be done on the ground. But as the national theme set up by Mayor Togo Titiza on the 11th of June, is that we need to then be able to build up on those very critical actions and insight that the farmers are doing on the ground, ensuring that we leverage on the public and private partnerships in creating a very sustainable system. But the system that ensures not only just providing food, but food that can be accessed by everyone. We do know, and hopefully later on from Professor Cheryl Hendricks, where she will enlighten us also in some of the areas during our discussion, where we say, as we expand our food system, how do we ensure that we also internalize the cost of ensuring that our natural resources are taken care of. And we will hear that as the program progresses. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me then to welcome Professor Sue Walker to take us through in terms of her detailed presentation. Professor, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much. I want to first greet the Honorable MEC, Ntati. Thank you for your introduction. Also to the chair and to the other members in this meeting, and all protocol observed. Firstly, I want to say that I also have been for many years working at the University of the Free State, although now I'm in Pretoria. So I also am familiar with the farming systems in Free State province. So this morning, the topic that we are addressing and the province has chosen is called Building Resilience to Vulnerabilities, Shocks and Stresses. And so there were a number of different topics that were shared at the national meeting, and each province could select a particular one. So if we want to first just look at the SDGs, then we would know that nearly all 17 are related to food and agriculture. So for instance, the first one is around poverty. And we know that poverty, of course, as the minister has, MEC has already spoken, is related to food as well. Then zero hunger is obvious. If we look at health, the MEC brought out links to nutritional food also. And education, it's really about what kind of food systems, and if you have a good diet, then you can learn better. If we go to gender equality, then we also know that half of the food production in the world is done by women, and probably a large number in the Free State as well. If we go to clean water, and MEC brought out the information about the Water Act and registrations and use of water, so this is also related to food and agriculture. If we go to number 7 is about clean energy, and we also know that agriculture really largely depends on fossil fuels, and so there needs to be some change over here. If we go down to number 9, it's about innovation and industry, and this is related, of course, to the food and food production and the whole food value chain. Then if we go along to responsible consumption, and the MEC also highlighted this, that many people can't afford a good nutritional diet, but we need to be responsible about the food, because around the world, about 1/3 of the food that is produced is wasted. Then, of course, close to my heart, climate action, and we've seen the climate change in the Free State, but we know that we can also address this by certain adaptation measures. And then going on to the last one, which is partnerships. And I think that is important here in this meeting, because really the minister asked us to address private public partnerships. And so that's why everybody has been invited to this meeting today. So let's go and look at what is this food systems approach? Can we understand what it is about? So if we think about even our body, it's a whole system of all different parts working together. And the ear and the eye are doing different jobs. So in the same thing in the food systems, it encompasses every person and every process that's involved, both in growing the food, in raising and making that food, and all the way along that value chain through the processing and the distributions until we're actually eating it. So this is about what the food system is about. Maybe I would even say that it goes through to sewage and the sanitation systems as well. So if we think about the food system, then we know that it's a very broad range of stakeholder groups. So these are the farmers, those that are harvesting, packing, processing, all of those who distributing, selling, storing, marketing, even marketing the inputs and the processed products, and then also consuming and disposing. So we also bring into the situation even the municipalities and the waste disposal. So if we think about the vulnerability of these food systems, then we thank the Honourable MEC because he's highlighted a few specific ones for Free State. But really, it's about if the food system fails, then we're failing to deliver food security. And so we have to think and plan for these future stresses. So there can be economic stress, there can be institution failure, there can be some conflict between the different actors, and also we have to look at the whole environmental change. So today we want to talk about the positive things. What can we do to build resilience? So it's not about sitting back and saying we can't do anything. We have to look at what can we do for the future to make it viable. And so these are really concepts of resilience and sustainability in the food systems. And if we think about the Free State food systems, then we know that they've survived for many years. The whole range of the farmers, from the subsistence farmers to the commercial farmers, they've survived, so we can learn from their examples and their lessons. But even now, it's more important under COVID-19 pandemic, and it also has far-reaching impacts because, as our chair has already explained, we know that the Free State supplies food for much of South Africa, especially the basics of maize and wheat. So we think of resilience at different levels. So the resilience is for me and my family as an individual. It's also for my community where I'm living and where I'm working. It's for what the government can do. And then also at a global level, because sometimes South Africa is exporting or importing food as well. And so we have to really build together. We have to build together in a way that it can be economically, socially, and environmentally sound so that it will last for many years. It's about nutrition security for everybody. It's about nutrition security now and also in the future and for the future generations. And we don't want to be compromised in any part of the world. So we're not only looking at ourselves, but the rest of Africa and also for everyone around the world. So today we have a number of people in the meeting, and we're going to solicit some answers to these questions so that we can provide feedback to the national level from Free State Province. So we have 5 questions and we're going to try and work through them. The first one is, what are the appropriate policy measures and associated institutional mechanisms to enable the resilience of our Free State food system? So this is the first one. The second is about how can we ensure effective, efficient, and sustainable agricultural production system. So this is about the production at the farm level. And then we also want to consider the people involved. So what is the human resources needed for this food system to be sustainable? What skills are needed? What education is needed? What capacity building and training is needed? And number 4 is about how can we ensure adequate and effective agricultural biosecurity. So this really talks to maintaining our yields and productivity and reducing the post-harvest losses, but being able to do it in a sustainable fashion and be concerned about the spraying and treatment of pests and diseases. And number 5 is around biodiversity. And the Honorable MEC also mentioned this in his introduction. So how can we use our biodiversity to help us to enhance that resilience, to be able to reduce the vulnerability to the climate change and the shocks, and to be able to maintain that sustainable national food systems? So we will now talk to each one of these 5 questions. Thank you, and back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Professor. We will not take questions at this stage, as we were going to have a very comprehensive discussion phase that will come in. I think you've really given us very important points that we need to just ponder around them as we understand and try to find out how do we ensure that we build a very resilient food system in the Free State that is contributing into the national. I think you made that point very clear. May I then ask Carl Forey to take the floor, and then we'll open up discussion after that presentation. Forey? While we're waiting for our next speaker to take the floor, may I just remind you that we do have our sign language on pause. We also have our interpreters providing us, ensure that the message and all those that want to contribute is really provided and is given into that. And your floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chairperson. Good day to all MEC, HOD. Can I just ask the organizer allow me to share the screen?
Right. I hope IT can be able to assist us in giving the sharing rights to Mr. Forey. Let's just give a second and see if they will be assisting you shortly. Are you winning, Forey?
I have shared my screen. I'm not sure if the panel can see it.
Maybe coming in a second. I'll just confirm now. It's not yet reflecting on my side. Maybe just try to reshare it again.
It's coming. Can you share it, Chairperson?
Yes, we are live and ready. You can proceed, sir.
Thank you. The theme of the discussion actually talks very well to our department vision and mission. Prosperous agriculture, farming, our food. Our mission is by partnering with relevant stakeholders, leverage available resources and technologies, optimize productivity and accelerate economic growth in agricultural sector. That also talks to our mandate to grow the economy, sustainable agriculture, promote food security for all. And then the aim is, by doing that, we also would like to transform the sector. If I can quickly give a macro overview to the Free State and bring the discussion closer to home, because we feel that it will also paint a good picture for the discussions. The Free State had actually a very good year. In some areas, a lot of excess rain, but it actually in total was a good year, and we hope, and it looks like with the new La Nina for the coming season, which is building up, which is bad for the Americas, that we will continue with the production. The Free State is the third largest province, second smallest population, third highest literacy rate. Unfortunately, that is coming from the census of 2016. We also have the highest unemployment as well as the highest dropout figures from schools. The Free State produce or contribute 5.1% to the national GDP. Unfortunately, the economic growth of the province was lower than the national average. So meaning our graph is below the national average. Agriculture provide also 9.4% of the formal job in the province, which is after community service, which means government, and then trade. Unfortunately, our province sits with a very high unemployment rate, actually is the highest in the country, which is very bad. And the current status was 33.1, but the COVID have pushed that up figure up a lot. As I've indicated, agriculture is producing nearly 10% of the GDP in the province. Fortunately, the good news is that agriculture was one of the few sectors we did have a positive growth in the previous quarter 2 and 3, which after a negative period and losing a lot of jobs made up to some extent. We are an important primary producer, like our MEC have said. We are the biggest producer on average, sorghum, sunflower, wheat, first and second or third in the country for a number of crops. Fourth, fifth, and sixth and seventh for a number of other commodities. We're also about second and third for both sheep and meat production in the country. Speaking to our current topic, in the General House Survey of 2018, the Free State indicated, or it was highlighted, that 4.9% of all households was food access severely inadequate. Food access inadequate was 14.5, so we're talking about just over 21%. If you look at the bullets behind, over time, the food insecurity declined in the Free State from 23.9 to 19.4. Slowly but surely, the food insecurity was declining. Unfortunately, if you look at the National Income Dynamic Coronavirus Rapid Mobile Survey, which was done in April, the level have actually doubled. There was a bit of improvement after January when they've reopened after the hard lockdown and the systems of distribution got going. The pandemic level, especially for children, is still doubled what it was before the pandemic. So it's the map you see is just an indication. The poverty pockets in the Free State, our average for severely food insecurity was 4.9. There there's an indication of which districts or municipal districts within our province is actually much higher than that.
As I've indicated, prior to COVID-19 pandemic, 19.4% of Free State population, about 560,000 people, faced extreme hunger. Stats SA projected the economic impact of this pandemic to leave about 50% of the population at risk of being food insecure. That is about 1.4 million people from the Free State. You all know the impact of the lockdown. That same rapid survey which I've referred to have indicated that no-fee schools, for instance, the previous presenter have indicated about how important food is for learning. In 2020, 50 to 75% less training took place in non-fee schools. So feeding, training, it goes together, and together it's a catastrophe. Food insecurity are even threatened more by the current diseases. We experience some locusts in the Free State. Yes, we've got a bit of diseases, veld fires. All of those things contribute to food insecurity and risk to food system. And these things, which one can also include it, which is not necessarily applicable to the household level, is the access to credit for planting. How do we mitigate disasters? All activities in our Department of Agriculture contribute to food security on local, provincial and national level. And as our initial aim is indicated, we have to collaborate between departments and between stakeholders. Programs in our department, other provinces, you will probably see the same. We don't have a much equitable share in the province, so most of our money, if not all of our money, is coming from CASP in Lima. Soil conservation also receives some money, and those money we try to focus on our female farmers, our youth, our provisional food security. During last year, we supported over 6,600 households. We have collaborated with 157 institutions for food security programs. We've alleviated and still continue with the National Borehole Initiative to equip the boreholes which was drilled. Our CASP in Lima program, part of that CASP in Lima program is our marketing infrastructure, agro-processing, business development, mentorship, extension support, training and graduate placement, our veterinary support, which is now our front line to make sure that our livestock industries can maintain a clean bill of health for continuous exports, and we've got the mechanization program. I will do my best not to duplicate the previous speakers. The topic which we have decided was the basic resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks and stresses. I've mentioned a couple of them, and the previous speaker also have mentioned and highlighted exactly the same what we want to do. And that should also be the focus of our things. Although it's called cross-cutting, if we're talking about food systems, especially on the production side, we've got commercial farmers, small farmers, upstream, downstream, from input suppliers, which could include banks for credit, production inputs, insurance, transport, road infrastructure. All of those things is risks to agriculture, both commercial as well as things. And even our off-takers needs to have good supply of water, electricity. So the thing of a food system, you can narrow it down to some extent, but if you take it, all the things that slot into agriculture, it's actually probably the whole economy. Issues which we would like to consider is what are our appropriate policies. If we talked about policies, we've identified, we've seen bylaws. Bylaws, what can you farm within the municipal areas? Your EIA requirements. You're talking about allowing your urban agriculture to take place, because we've referred to the shortage of resources. Biosecurity, both for humans, for animals. Your traceability becomes, because we would like to export, all of those things you have to take in consideration, not getting bogged down on maybe food level or development agriculture or commercial agriculture. Technologies, there's a lot of technologies. Some areas in the Free State, people are starting to create apps, linking markets, linking producers. Those type of things need to get attention, so that in the end of the day, you want to cut your losses and make your whole system efficient. In town, you delivered or your groceries delivered within 60 minutes. That thing can probably be expanded to agriculture as well, where people deliver a place, you put your order by app, and you get your things, which will reduce your whole setup. Jefferson, with those type of inputs from our side in the Free State, you can see the topic talks to us. It's very close to home, and it in conference all of the previous or alternative topics. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ndata Fori, and for that presentation. I think it built very well from what did share with us. And I think it's becoming very clear how it's really contributing into the topic that we have. Ladies and gentlemen, may I then allow this opportunity to then start moving into the main main section of our today's dialogue, where we start now opening up for the sessions. In terms of the discussion, we have decided not to have breakaway sessions to ensure that we all really benefit from your insight, we all learn from each other, and we ensure that we take all those inputs in terms of the actions, in terms of building up from the presentation that has been shared with us, in ensuring that we have a resilient system that eliminates vulnerabilities, shock, and other strikes, other stresses in terms of the food system, first in the province of the Free State and that of the national in the country level. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like then to open up this discussion, and you can now have your contribution. I will just monitor in terms of the hands on the side, and I will recognize you as you come. And it takes us from the farmers, and it takes us from our value chain players. We have all the right decision makers in terms of the food systems in the province, and we should be able to really build upon that. May I then encourage you to just take the floor. We also have our very seasoned and experienced professionals in the likes of Professor Sue and others.
Yes, we're waiting for contributions from the floor. Can we perhaps start with the second question, which is how can we ensure an effective, efficient, and sustainable agricultural production system?
Maybe, Prof, what can assist if we can just put up those questions? Let's just put that slide up. I see the hand becoming soon, and I think that will assist the attendants to ensure they contribute meaningfully. Tabiso, I have noted your hand. May I see other hands that will come through while we're waiting for Prof. Sue to put out the presentation?
So here are the 5 questions questions, but maybe we can deal with them one at a time.
All right.
We've heard from Meneer Fourie. So I suggest maybe we can kick off with most of the, how can we effectively and efficiently so can we
only on my side, we seem to be losing you at times.
Okay, that's why I put my video off.
Okay, that sounds better now.
So perhaps we can go with some of the people who've got their hands up already. Tabiso?
Okay. We will take Tabiso. I know there are a lot of contributions that will come in from the very knowledgeable value chain players in the province, expecting Jack Moore to also come in. Can I then give it to Tabiso to start off?
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Ndombela. I'd perhaps like to kickstart by saying, in ensuring effective and efficient sustainable agricultural production system, there's one critical factor which we need to look at, which is the age of the current crop of farmers that we have within the province. There is a substantial research evidence that shows that the average age of the farmers in the Free State is 58 years plus. With that said, I really believe that we've all learned with the current pandemic of COVID-19 to say people who were more vulnerable or were more likely to develop severe symptoms were people along those age groups. With that said, I think as a province, we have a challenge before us to say, how do we then make sure that we encourage younger crop of farmers to come into this space so that we can ensure effective and efficient and sustainable agricultural production systems. By so saying, I'd even also say, look, the evidence even shows that even the workers themselves, they are along those average ages and older. And with that said, it shows the kind of challenge or the situation that is facing our agricultural sector moving forward, to say if we really don't make sure that we encourage younger crop of farmers to come in and begin to soldier on as farmers, we would really be as a province. So my contribution will be such that we look into that and say, as the province, what are robust measures that we need to put in place or rather look at that will encourage younger crop of farmers to begin to come in and replace the current older crop of farmers that we are having. Thank you very much, Dr. Ndome.
Thank you very much, Tatin. We note your point, and we must also note that Meneer Fourie also commented about apps and using that kind of communication. So that is part of something that will encourage the youth to be part of agriculture. We see Memimi Jacobs. Would you like to take the floor?
Thank you so much, Prof. Sue. I think to ensure an effective and efficient and sustainable production system, one needs to start looking at what is the current, shall I share my video? What is the most recent stats that we have, and I think we're looking at stats from about 2 years or so. I don't think we have accumulated enough stats at this point in time, or sufficient to address what does the province need. We see what has gone wrong in the province, and we look at the weather patterns that are changing, climate changes that are taking place. But I have a few pointers here where I think we should focus on, and one of it is the cleanup of our current rivers, and also repair of our current infrastructure. Our rivers, and that needs a multilateral approach with the various departments in here, in as far as water affairs, etc. The MSc has also mentioned illegal dams, etc. So what we need to have a look at is ensuring that we streamline those, that we make sure that that those are legal, because we find that they are lack in as far as the execution of compliance are concerned in the various departments. So these are things that we really have to take care of. Our rivers are becoming an increasing problem. I'm a crop farmer, and I've just done recently a soil as well as a water test with the Institute of Water at UOFS. And it is increasingly becoming very dangerous to irrigate with the polluted water that we're using here. And that is one of the key areas. That is where ineffectiveness starts in production and in the food chain eventually. So my call would be to really clamp down on inefficiencies in as far as water purity are concerned. Also, when something that is very close to my heart as well, I've suffered a farm attack, as most of you know, and we need to address the security of farms. And my suggestion is, and I've been in contact with our department to subsidize security cameras along the ways. Now, in that, we can curb the spread, or curb the violence that occurs, because it's easily tracked then. If we don't protect the farmers, or at least have a conversation in that regard, then, because it's no longer just white farmers who are being killed and attacked. It's our black farmers. It's the vulnerable people who cannot afford extra security systems, etc. Because most of our farmers are emerging farmers, and you're so focused on making the farm work and ensure production that are being fulfilled, because there are other urgent matters that you have to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your 2 points. We take them and we go to the next hand. Luseko.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Mine is just to get clarity in terms of, like, if we ought to speak about sustainable agriculture, we cannot by principle exclude young farmers in the equation. as they give meaningful explanation as to how can we achieve sustainable agriculture. What, so I would like to find out to this date, how far is the province in developing young farmers? Do we have figures in terms of what have we achieved in terms of developing young farmers as the province? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We are going to take note of your request for further capacity building. Do we have other questions around the effective and efficient discussion around the sustainable agricultural production systems? Yanni Rath, thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Professor, yes, I only have one point, and which we do not exclude, is the service delivery of the municipalities that have a huge impact on the rural areas surrounding it, and also creating jobs and job opportunities inside the towns, so that the poverty rates isn't that high. And with poverty rates that high, the theft of farm produce and stock is a very big problem. And then also the average profitability of farms is the major issue here due to the spikes in input costs. And the average profitability of farms in South Africa is about 3%. So it is a very low profitability margin. And then also one of the problems that the farmers also sit with is the external investors, financial investors, is the major issue because of subjects on the table like expropriation without compensation. And that is also one of the issues why young farmers do not go to the farms, back to the farms, and take over the businesses from their fathers because of these issues. That's only my 4 points. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Meneer Rath. And now we go to Ntati John Casey.
Good morning. Morning.
Morning. Yes, you've got the floor.
Okay, thank you so much. So my take would be here a number of issues have been addressed already. So if we are the main theme being resilient, enhancing resilience, so would the challenge, perhaps the question will be, what are the drivers of vulnerability? And I've heard also previous speakers have highlighted some important key factors. Because if you are talking about enhancing resilience to achieve sustainability in farming production, the sustainability would be anchored in 3 pillars. One being the social, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tabiso has addressed, talking about the social aspect. His particular example was about age. The other issue that was anchored on social aspect also was the capacity building. And also the previous speaker has alluded to the issue of capacity building, especially among the youth. The other aspect which is key is the environmental aspect, which was addressed in particular the issue of dams. But I would want to maybe take it further to say we need to have the measures to take care of our ecological infrastructure in totality, and not only limit it maybe perhaps to water. It's important that we preserve and conserve our wetlands. and we improve our soil efficiency. So all those environmental aspects and factors, they contribute to an efficient ecological infrastructure. So perhaps we have to say, how best can we enhance that as well? And my last take will be on the economic, the financial aspects. We need a financially enabling environment for agriculture to help prosper. Across the province, you would have farmers involved in different things, agro-processing, different things that we come across with. By the way, I'm from the Environmental Empowerment Services in the Department of Economic, Small Business, Tourism and Environmental Affairs in the province. So we happen to also deal with farmers who are involved in agro-processing. So it is there when you realize that in some of the issues, we just need some incentive to enhance farmers to be able to contribute effectively. So yeah, in a nutshell, my issues is when we look at vulnerability or enhancing resilience, it should be looked at through the social lenses, the economic and the environmental aspects. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much for bringing our attention and also including things that have already been said. We value your contribution. I see another hand there. Pizza, would you like to bring your points?
Yes, thank you very much for taking my question. I battled to connect, so I didn't pick up the earlier presentations. However, I would like to speak to this question that is being posed and explore, if we rather suggest something to explore. Perhaps before I even do that, the question in my mind is this question we are facing of how can we ensure effective, efficient, sustainable agricultural production systems. What are the timelines that we are looking at? And I want to suggest a long term as an important foundation. And I'll speak based on the long term. One, two areas I want to speak to. One is that of security, and another is that of building in sustainability. And I want us to ask, what is the appetite of a target that is deliberate, even if it's going to be about 30% of the 100%, that targets children who are at school, entry level? This used to be the case in the past, where basics of learning agriculture used to actually be done. And now I'm not even referring to the theory, which could be the only focus now, and I could be wrong, but I think exposure to the actual doing, children learning to do, because sustainability that guarantees South Africa's next 50 years is for children to be given the appetite. The costs, in my view, would be less as compared to targeting the young people, who it's going to become extremely costly to try and give them that thing that should drive them. Because what should probably be a consideration is that farmers should actually fall in love with farming. So if we, for example, introduce apps, young people are gonna love the apps and not farming, and that's the first point. The second point regarding security, my suggestion is the same. We have got issues that I believe as a country we may have fundamentally failed to deal with, and these are issues of an individual, an attitude of an individual, the values of an individual, the perception they have about the other, and how we perceive the other than the self, and these are things that we probably need to do something about and target the children. My thinking is, what goes into the curriculum might have to become an important focus and contribution coming from the agricultural experts, together with other experts such as hopefully anthropologists and others, to refocus. But we need to rework the mentality. I think South Africa's mentality is part of the problem. Let me leave it there, and apologies for making a long comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I think it would be good if we can move to the next question. And some of it has already been addressed, but maybe we could have some more detailed comments around the human resources need for the food system to become resistant and resilient. So do we have some recommendations around skills and capacity? We have had some discussion already around the youth and what we can do to encourage them. Are there other specific comments? Okay, I see your hand, Mr. Jack Alma. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. I think everybody wants to be a mega farmer, but in the real scheme of things, I think Sifiso spoke about the 40,000 commercial farmers in South Africa. Of those 40,000 commercial farmers, I think there are only 40 mega farmers in South Africa. So not everybody is a mega farmer. And I think if one uses the analogy of a soccer team, every school has got a soccer team, but only 11 people get into the national team at the end. And one needs that school level training. Somebody spoke about food gardens, and I think that's so important, food gardens at schools. That part of the curriculum at schools should be food safety and food security, and just learning the basic principles of, my daughter had to grow a bean seed in cotton wool on a windowsill. That's not going to feed you. That's the wrong, you need to learn how to grow at least a tomato plant that produces some tomatoes that you can eat. But the school curriculum, I think, is failing with that very, very basic need. And I think just as the soccer analogy, we need to have a very basic training across the board at very low level. And then as people progress, that will also ignite a passion for agriculture, I think, amongst a lot of students. At the moment, many students get through college, get through university, and they've never even been on a farm. They've never even planted their own vegetable garden, but they've got all this book knowledge. They've got no practical application of that book knowledge. And then the last thing I want to say is that everybody doesn't necessarily need to be trained to become a farmer. There are many scientists and many other fields, scientific fields, social fields, that are support services to agriculture, marketing, communications. All those skills are needed as well. And to link those very diverse careers back to agriculture in some way, that people that have got this passion for agriculture but trained in something else can also express that passion for agriculture through the other, I think, just as a very broad background. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jack. Yes, it's good to remember that we're talking about food systems, and I think Jack really brought that out clearly by indicating that the training is not only for farmers, but also for many other fields like marketing and communication, and also bringing the point about helping people to realize their passion and be able to make a contribution. So thank you. Further inputs around the human resources needs in Free State? Now I wonder whether there's anybody from COFCES or CUT or somebody from the school systems. Is there somebody from formal education?
Hello, Sue?
Yes?
Sorry, I'm not able to raise my hand. I was looking for the hand
Oh,
raising.
okay. Is it Lucky?
Yes, my name is Lucky Mutamai. I come from...
Sorry, I can only see half of your name, so that's why I can't go with everything. But thank you, Lucky. You've got the floor.
Thank you very much, Sue. My name is Laki Matamai. I come from an institution called Shebelopele Institute of Agriculture. It's a newly formed institution. My wife and I formed it in 2019. And what we currently do is, training. We're in the training space where we do agricultural training, as well as food science and food innovation. And in terms of human resource and human resource needs, particularly around skills and capacity in terms of, younger people. Here I was talking a lot about, the issue of technology and apps and so forth. But one issue that I want to bring to the floor is how are we in the province utilizing the existing pool of skills that is currently there? There's a growing concern that we have, which is the increasing rate of unemployed graduates who have undertaken, formal education in terms of agriculture, food science, and so forth. And you find that this is a consistent and growing pool of young people that are lying in the township or sitting in the township, not applying their trade in any way or the other. And you find that there's not enough institutions in the province, both from private sector, which would be the companies, as well as public sector, that actually are able to sponge and take up this pool of educated labor that's out there. And now it's very frightening if we were even to address the issue of human resource needs, because it might then present a sort of a situation that says that the skills are not there. And in fact, if we can't even utilize the existing skills, how do we then begin to try and imagine how to create and develop further skills? And I'm not saying that we're not supposed to be thinking of it, obviously we should, but we should also critically look at, the current in order to then put more input and emphasis on the future. That is my submission.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucky. I would appreciate it if you would put the name of your institution for the training of food and agriculture innovation. If you can just put it in the chat so that we can have those details, and web page if you have it. Thank you very much for raising that question about the pool of people who are already trained in some skill. And so we really need to have that enabling environment to be able to bring those people in. And it seems like you have those entrepreneur skills to help people to develop their own space and not rely on somebody else. So thank you very much for your input. I see your hand, Mimi.
Thank you, Prof. Just two more inputs in this. I think it's very important that farmers look at sector-specific practical training from the various institutions in terms of not only look, when you start off farming, then you should at least have an idea of what you want to do or what you want to farm with. But in that, I'm saying that both farm owner, and your workers should be qualified, or at least have enough training to operate and have the know-how. I'm going to make an example with regards to SAPA, for instance, as a organization who I'm doing pecan nuts. I've just planted pecan nuts and I'm increasing. So, but SAPA, because I am affiliated to SAPA, they bring expertise to the table. I have regular training interventions with my staff, with them as well. So not only, just in terms of, and one should look at, as a farm owner, look at the needs of your workers to train them as best possible, because if you have trained staff, you have profits.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, we're looking at the whole range of skills development. So that is good, yes, not only for the formal education, but also these types of backstopping and assistance. So that is also coming from the extension services and from other advisory services, as well as the informal or hands-on practical training. Thank you. Okay, do we have more questions around human resources? Let's go to some of the other questions. If we go to question number 4, it says, how do we ensure adequate and effective agricultural biosecurity towards enabling and assuring yields, productivity, and reduction in post-harvest losses? So this is really addressing how do we approach the pests and diseases that are afflicting us as agricultural production and in the post-harvest. So how can we be sure that it also doesn't pollute our environment? So chemical industry, or can we use biological methods, or can we use crop rotation, or some of those kind of issues? Do we have any comments about agricultural biosecurity? Yes, thank you, Jack. Can you address this question, please?
Sure, thank you. I think biosecurity is quite a technical topic with industrialized farming, like pig farms and chicken farms, where you walk through dips and all that kind of stuff. The very top end of your big sort of factory farming and stuff. And we've seen with listerosis and current bird flu and all that kind of stuff. But on the bottom end, the smallholder backyard farmer and stuff, the very basic start is at municipal level, where sewage is flowing out of the sewage works into the commonage area, into the rivers, as somebody spoke about earlier. You know, that should be the start. And that's where government and a lot of people on this group are from government sectors. That's where the start should be, is making sure our sewage systems don't spill, and having pigs from the commonage busy eating human feces and things like that. So that's a very important start that we should do. The other issues are quite technical in the commercial system, and the more industrialized and the more high density it becomes, the more these issues break out. And unfortunately, like with bird flu and the swine fever and that kind of stuff, it has a huge impact on the smallholder survivalist backyard gardening. You know, the subsistence farmer who relies on his few pigs or few chickens, where an outbreak, you know, from big commercial farms can wipe out that household food security. Yes, to urban users that are consuming that commercial production, the prices are going to go up, but it's not really going to have a huge impact on the whole market. I mean, in China, when half of their swine herds were culled because of swine flu, they could import pig meat from somewhere else. They could use substitutes. Yes, the prices went up, but it didn't have a massive impact on your poor urban consumer. But your rural person whose whole herd is wiped out now, or culled, or gets sick and dies, that's a big impact. So it requires very close coordination throughout the whole sector, from smallholder all the way to mega, working together. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Jack, for bringing some of those points and highlighting the fact that it affects all of the farmers, and for the phytosanitation things that we need to bring in place. Mania Fourie, I see your hand. Would you like to bring?
Yes,
your point of view from the department. Thank you.
yes, look, food safety is becoming a non-negotiable issue for government. And that cut across biosecurity. And if I'm correct, our SA gap, global gap will become one policy. There's no distinction. And it is for our farmers, it's a big barrier to entry to comply to all of the laws from biosecurity, food safety, consumer acts, HACCP, you name it. So training and education, there's simple systems, and it comes back to that one of laws, interpretation of laws, what is allowable, what is not allowable, where can you do it, when can you do it, because some of the things is really not inducive and conducive to the industry on different levels. We don't want to see a system that you've got an informal market, formal market, and everything in between. Eventually, the informal market will have to comply to the higher one, but that will be inputs and it will cost money. And training and education will probably have to be elevated to a much, much bigger level for even for basic foods, household economy, household food safety, from that level upwards. So yes, production is one thing, but to compliance, training and mentoring will be key. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate you bringing that bigger picture around food safety and the Consumer Acts and things as well. So we need to look at the whole fitting into the global system, but being able to apply it also in the Free State. Do we have other questions? Other comments around the agricultural biosecurity? I presume those are old hands. Mimi, do you have a comment on biosecurity, or is it an old hand?
It's an old hand, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, no, thank you. We're trying to give everybody a chance. So I don't know, Jacket, do you want to add something again?
Sorry, can I just add something quickly?
Yes.
My father-in-law had a small dairy, and he always used to fight or complain about the whole dairy inspection system. He said, you know, his workers were very clean. They milked by hand, they milked into buckets, and he's sure his milk was very pure and clean. But because he didn't have a dairy with tiled walls and all that kind of stuff, it was a barrier to entry for his small dairy. It wasn't worth his while to spend more money and to have a formal dairy with tiled walls and all the stainless steel pipes and all that kind of stuff. He always said, why don't they just measure the quality of the milk? So my suggestion here is kind of in-field lab systems that if each truck could maybe measure the quality of the milk before loading the milk, then you get good quality milk, and it can be rejected on the farm. When you can have the most industrial, greatest tiled walls and systems and everything, but if they haven't been washed properly and there's an infection growing inside those pipes, that milk is polluted, but it's certified because it's got the tiled walls and the stainless steel pipes. So sometimes a different way to look at the current systems that we've got in place. You know, measure the quality of the product. Don't look at the system that makes the product, is what I'm saying. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Jack. I do believe in other countries they do test the milk at the production site. So I think that there are those mobile systems that are available. Okay, I think we can go to the next question because we still have to come back to question number 1. So can I move to question number 5? Question number 5 is around the biodiversity. This is in the environment and the variety of organisms and plants, everything. How can we utilize our biodiversity to enhance resilience and reduce the vulnerability to climate change and to other shocks in our national food system, or particularly here in the Free State? So can we look at some of the opportunities to increase our biodiversity? Is there an opportunity for the underutilized or indigenous crops? Is there opportunity for the little used crops? Is there opportunity for developing those food systems and then bringing in some kind of unique system and being able to also promote the biodiversity of the Free State? We must have some unique natural ecosystems in the Free State, and this stretches from our grasslands, our veld, and we know that there's different veld species across from the highlands around the Eastern Free State right through to the Orange River, and also from north to south. There are different veld systems, especially along the rivers. Do we have some comments around the biodiversity? Jack, can you tell us something there?
Yes, thank you. A lot of farmers during the drought period, I know Professor Andries Jordan always used to say up in the Northern Cape, he did a study there on resilience. The farmers that bought their Mercedeses would buy it during the drought year, but they were farmers that they had a spare farm. In other words, they had a camp that they keep one side for when there is a drought. And the old farmers they knew it's when there is a drought. It's not if there's a drought, there will always be a drought, so always plan for a drought in future. So that not overgraze, not overcapacitate your whole farm is obviously very important. But also using, and I know a risk mitigation strategy in arable crops and in grazing is to have farms in different geographical locations. And but that's obviously a commercial strategy. It's not going to help much for emerging farmers. But even in Lesotho, your cattle in winter graze on the plains when on the mealie stalks and stuff, but then in summer they go up to the mountains. So utilizing that natural biodiversity is an important traditional system as well. One thing I've got to admit as the commercial farming sector is we've destroyed our biodiversity with monoculture agriculture, and especially with grain cropping, where we've only grown millies and millies and millies every year using a very chemical system, and the soil is only there to prop up your plant, open hydroponic system and stuff. And that's not sustainable in the long term. And we've lost, and Professor James Blichnout and his work on soil erosion, and I think it's a shocking figure, I don't know how many tons or millimeters of our topsoil is wasted every year because we leave our soil open and exposed to the wind, and then when it rains, it washes away. So a lot of farmers have been practicing, and there's a lot of study groups on a minimum and no-till agriculture, and using green crops and cover crops and all that kind of stuff to conserve the water in the soil. The small holding farming systems, Farming God's Way and Foundations for Farming, that are teaching mulching, and they call it God's blanket basically, but mulching to keep a layer of organic material on the soil to prevent evaporation from the soil. Those are principles that can be applied both at smallholder farming and at commercial farming level as well. And it's very encouraging to see Dr. Chris Smith at Grain South Africa working on promoting that. And yeah, so there's a lot of good work happening. So the commercial farming sector has realized that it has been mining the soil essentially, and it's busy converting to more sustainable systems. But unfortunately, it costs a lot of money to convert, and a lot of people, especially your small sort of family farm, where it's already got all the equipment and the guy's already old, it's not worth his while. It's not financially lucrative to convert to a long sustainable system. And sometimes an incentive is necessary to assist that farmer to convert to a more sustainable system. Yeah, I think that's enough from my side.
Okay, thank you, Jack. I think we have to really think about the regenerative agriculture also that is being promoted, and also climate smart agriculture systems, and really see how they can work even in the semi-arid areas. I know that Prof. Linus Frankie has a new project at University of Free State where they're looking at some of those aspects, especially for the livestock and grazing industry. So people would be welcome to contact him as well. Do we have any other comments around biodiversity and how we can promote it? I also, some people seem to have their mics on. If you're not contributing, please, can you have your mic muted? I think we also have to bring in the bee farmers here and how important they are, especially for our fruit crops, whether these are the fruits and nuts in the Eastern Free State around the peaches and apricots and cherries, etc., or whether it's the nuts around macadamias and pecans in different parts of the province. Do we have anybody who would like to speak about the indigenous crops? I know that people from the University of KZN were working with the melons and what we can do to make it into confit or jam as well, so that there's opportunities for that.
Also,
yes, Lucky, is it you?
Yes, I'm not talking about any indigenous crops,
okay.
But I've been, there's one crop that I've been working on farming. I've been farming for the past 5 years, but however, it was not in the Free State. It was in Polokwane. I've been working on pomegranates. And I know there's a couple of pomegranate farmers here in the Free State as well. And, you know, working on the crop, I've seen, you know, a lot of potential with regards to the crop also being one of the crops that are somehow encouraged for development in the Free State. Because it's very resilient and it also adapts very well to the Free State climate. And it's one thing that I've also engaged the Department of Agriculture on, but I would encourage us to also, you know, look at it and see what sort of projects that we can do around the crop, because it performs really well and it's also performing really well in the Western Cape in particular. So that was just one thing that I wanted to highlight.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, about a month ago, I was visiting some of the pomegranate farms in the Western Cape because a colleague of mine, Dr. Teresa Volskink, has a new Water Research Commission project to look at the water productivity of the pomegranates. Unfortunately, she has to only work in the Western Cape, but if there was some complementary funding from somebody in the Free State, then that would really assist her to be able to look at some of the Free State farmers as well. So yes, it's definitely something that is one of the niche markets, and I think that that's what we have to look at. You don't need a lot of land, and after 2 or 3 years you have some production. So we can consider some of the other niche crops as well. Okay, I see your hand, Paulsella Mofokeng.
Good morning. Thank you very much. My name is actually Palis. Oh,
yes, go ahead.
Okay, my name is actually Palis Mofokeng.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Okay. My thing is on the exotic mushroom production in the Free State. unfortunately I got in late, but I would just like to highlight that we have started production of exotic mushrooms, and I don't know from your side if there's any assistance that we can maybe get just to get the product out there in the market, and because most people are not familiar with the product, maybe in terms of marketing or whatever, so that people can know about these types of mushrooms and eventually get to benefit from the medicinal benefits of the crop. Thank you so much, Susatmi.
Thank you very much for bringing the mushrooms onto the platform as well. Yes, there are many opportunities, but probably you have to really look at having some contract from somebody so that you can sell it that way and not be landed up with a lot of production. I know that Agricultural Research Council at Ridderplot, FOPI, has got some training sessions around the mushrooms, and so maybe you would be able to contact them for some further information. I've also seen a number of farmers being assisted around Ladysmith through the KwaZulu department, and so maybe there is an opportunity there for Free State also. Maybe we can learn from some of the old original mushroom farms and how they began from a small industry. For instance, I come from KwaZulu there around Hillcrest and Kloof area, and some of those Denny mushrooms were the original farms. I think it was Denny when I was a child. And so we can see that those guys also began from something small. Okay, Jack, yes.
Sorry, just to add there on the mushrooms, the University of the Free State does have a in their commercialization unit. They did a lot of work with mushrooms as well, and I know they've got dryers and stuff to dry the mushroom powder as well. Then it can be used later, preserved and used later for soup and all that kind of stuff. But the other important thing about mushroom and in biodiversity is that it's a fungus, and it brings in a different species into your whole enterprise mix. I know Prof. Gunter Pauli years ago at the APSA seminar spoke about mushroom farmers that use maize stalk as their growth medium, which the cattle can't really eat, but once it's been broken down, the cellulose has been broken down by the mycelium of the mushrooms, that maize residue becomes so much more nutritious. So within a circular system, mushrooms can play a very important role.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Mema Faking, is that your hand again?
No, I don't have.
Okay. Sorry, old hand. All right, no, that's fine. We going ahead. Are there other comments around the biodiversity? I think we really have to investigate how it can be used in maintaining sustainable systems, so that we would also be able to look at some of those circular economic systems and considering the whole value chain. So perhaps this really is a place where some investigative on-farm trials and experiments need to be done. All right, I think we didn't look at question number 1, so I just want to go back over there to number 1. And the first question that we were raising is around the appropriate policy measures and associated institutional mechanisms to enable resilience in our Free State food systems. As a few of our speakers at the beginning highlighted, we have to know that the Free State is really supplying food to the rest of the South African nation. And so it's important from that point of view. But perhaps there are national policy measures as well as provincial or municipal policy measures that people want to bring to the fore. I see your hand, Jack.
Thank you. I did make some comments in the chat room about this first question. I think the very first thing, and I think Mr. Roth also spoke about that, is that policy surety is so important. And a lot of commercial farmers are not reinvesting their profits back into the farm. And that's one of the successes of intergenerational family farming, is that a lot of, and that's where a lot of the majority of our commercial farmers in South Africa, so they're actually small, generally small farms in economic terms, and they put back a lot of their investment back into the farm. They're not shareholders that are extracting investment out of the farm and using it somewhere else or living it up somewhere else. They're putting it back into their farm by expanding and building new enterprises and stuff. But with this policy insecurity that we've got with expropriation without compensation and this hostile policy environment towards white commercial farmers, a lot of that investment is going out of the farms, and it's impacting on the sustainability and the productivity of those farms. So that's very important, is to have policy security as soon as possible. And then the institutional mechanisms and stuff, there's a lot of support from the Department of Agriculture towards smallholder farmers, but I don't think enough to work towards commercial farmers, black and white. So one needs a balanced spread. And then also from the research side of things, the ARC, I think, is purely focusing on smallholder emerging farmers and not enough on the bigger systems that are needed. So that balance of institutional mechanisms throughout the value chain and not just focused on a specific sector. Yes, there are some sectors that need a lot more help and support, but sometimes maybe the free market, the open market, the commercial businesses and banks and stuff can maybe be mobilized through the correct incentives to maybe help better at certain levels than government is doing. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Do we have a comment from the Free State Department of Agriculture? Or do we have any comments from the private sector, such as the banks who are providing agricultural loans and loans for the whole food system? I think we don't need to limit ourselves just to the agricultural and land and water policies. We can also look at other policies if need be. Because what we're looking at is how can we improve the enabling situation. Some other comments?
Prof. Sue, if you may.
Okay, yes. Is it Mimi?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
I think the policies and procedures are very clear in as far as the department are concerned, etc., as well as in various other the stakeholders that is involved in this. It's the execution of those policies that are very, very crucial. It is the bylaws, municipal bylaws, that needs to be enforced. Right now, it just seems like some of these things lack and it is in limbo. We do have great policies that is, you know, in terms of the written word, it looks, we look very good, but it's the enforcement of those policies that we need to start enforcing on a more urgent basis, if I may say. I'm looking at land care. We do have, there are land care policies, but it's not all of them are adhered to. There are, in terms of licensing, water rights, etc. These things are not being, and there are gaps in these markets or gaps in these systems that allow perpetrators or people to get away with things. You know, and in terms of support structures as well. I look at what and I'm sorry, I might sound a little bit critical when it comes to extension officers in the department, but these people are very, they're highly skilled, but it's in the enforcement and the communication and the presence on the farms that are lacking. Not all of them, I must say, but I think the extension officers should be enabled to work a little bit, and the mandate should be extended to be more present on farms. I know the department are challenged with vehicles, with a few, you know, there are a few challenges in as far as that are concerned. But to get it right, to help and to be of assistance and to really make a difference, these people need to get their boots on the farms and have active participation in as far as what is happening in the Free State. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I think there are what we call green scorpions. I think, do they come from Department of Forest, Fisheries and Environment? So maybe they need to interact a little bit with some of the Free State provincial departments. I see your hand, Mania Fourie. Would you like to take the floor?
Prof, it's not Mania Fourie.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Please introduce yourself then.
Mangi Ramabinyani. I'm the rapporteur later, I think.
Oh, okay. Yes, all right.
Yes, I'm with Mrs. Fourie, and we had to drive from where we were at first because of power load shedding challenges. We could not get the signals, but finally we got you. We are here. So I'm just talking to some of the challenges as we try to improve.
Yeah, okay.
We ensure sustainable food systems. But the point that I wanted to raise in this regard is, I think the two speakers are actually on point in terms of what they are raising, that we should look very, very closely at. There's no criticism to anybody here, but it's just the fact that policy enforcement and policy reviews have to be conducted on a regular basis, perhaps on an annual basis, especially from the implementer side, and feed up to the policy making process regularly, so as we implement on an annual basis. That could help, because we keep on saying what good policies, they've been good immediately after compilation and adoption, but since then, we have never evaluated how effective these policies are. The case in point I want to make in this regard was, in addition to the land care challenges that we have, not looking after the very basic resource that provides food security to everyone and livelihood to everyone throughout the value chain, is an alignment of policy implementation. I think, maybe I'm talking to institutional arrangements, perhaps, or commitment and accountability to policy implementers with regard to food systems. We can look at it from any angle. We have serious challenges like that, and I think our MEC, when he joined the sector as the executive authority, was sort of prioritize a key important resource and use of that resource the commonages. Whilst we're trying to make sure that there's equitable access to land and water in this country, we have quite a number of people who are eking out their livelihoods from commonages. And people there are just like overcrowded to the exploitation of the land and the resource that they have. Biosecurity issues, you name them, everything is a challenge there. But the issue of non-alignment and constant review of policy is very glaring in this space of commonages. I'm talking, I want to be practical in this case. I hope I get myself coherent and clear to everybody. To say, for example, we have CAS and ILIMA program seeking to support people, farmers in the various sizes, the focus being the subsistence and the smallholders. And these are the people, that are mainly used and have access to the communities, but with no secure lists to make sure that out of that livelihood, whatever their investments are done, they are beneficial and they can exit the commonage and make it available for other users, because the commonage is the communal property in that particular municipality, but it's beginning to become a sort of a permanent, how can I put it, belonging to certain individuals that is good rights. And in some instances, municipalities don't give permits. And therefore, even if a farmer can apply for support, there's no way that we can support that farmer when does not have a secure leasehold equivalent maybe to the maximum of grants that can be given. And I hope I'm making myself clear there. And also the management of the communities themselves, sustainable use of the resource itself, land care issues, practice there, and entry and exit of farmers, as I've indicated. This is a whole policy area and institutional arrangement policy in terms of accountability and ownership of the role players in that space. Because indeed, if we can observe all laws and biosecurity issues, they can be made productive for the majority of people that are using it. They can be incorporated effectively and efficiently into the local food system. The markets are readily available, but it's not happening. And food safety in most cases is seriously compromised. I just want to say that fact. And I think the choice of this topic was also informed at bottom up. Let's get this resilience build at the lowest level of the administration or economy, local municipalities. These shocks didn't be addressed there, as well as stresses at that level, and build upwards in terms of what policy allows and markets also be made available for such farmers in that space. Value chains many can be generated, or they can come up of the local food supply system, as long as the capacity is there to support that environment, as well as the farmers and the local communities and the households in those spaces. Thank you, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. We appreciate your determination to be assisting us today, and despite load shedding, etc. Thank you also for bringing that point about being bottom up and local and at the lowest level. So before I see a few other hands, but I just want to ask, so other people can prepare themselves, whether there's any other participant who's from the municipality or that lower level. We also want to request that some of our farmers, I want to remind them that there is a translation service, so you can actually speak in your mother tongue, as long as it's not Italian or something, and be able to have an interpretation. We do, if you look on the bottom of your screen, then you will see that there is interpretation opportunities, so you can speak in your mother tongue. Thank you, Mayor, for your input about local level and the common edges. I think it also links to the biodiversity, and so it can be included in some of the answers also for the previous or other questions. I see 2 more hands at the moment. Lucky, you have the floor.
Thank you, Prof. I finally managed to raise my hand. In terms of, I echo the sentiments of the 2 speakers before me in terms of this issue. And one thing that I also want to add on to is policy direction in terms of new entrants in the system. There is a vacuum, a big vacuum in terms of our policies, in terms of, how do we get new entrants into the system, particularly young people. I would cite an example in this instance. The NYDA and the Land Bank recently advertised an assistance for young people in agriculture called the Youth Agri Fund. But when you go into that fund and you dissect it and you engage both the NYDA and the Land Bank, you find that they are assisting existing young people or youth within agriculture. These would be young people who are already farming. And it locks out all the potential young people that want to enter the system but cannot due to certain barriers like, for example, land, which would be the biggest barrier in this case. And it touches on, is our government and different institutions really availing the opportunity for other groups, particularly young people, to enter the system? And I could also cite another example when it comes to new entrants. The training of agricultural training, both formal and vocational, used to be under the Department of Agriculture. Now it's something that's under the Department of Education in the different sectors. And you find that now privatization in terms of training in agriculture, it seems to be lacking a certain direction, especially policy-wise. And you would see that now, it's like we're digressing in terms of that sort of fray. So I would like to see stuff like that coming back, training in agriculture being a forte of the Department of Agriculture that is more positioned to actually make sure that new entrants are also accommodated. That is my submission.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucky, for those comments. I think if we look in the past, there were some policies before where farms were obtained and new farmers were allowed to work on that, and there was a big review of that also and the success of that, and so those reports are also available. Okay, I have a hand from Ntati Dan.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dan McKenna from Free State, Department of Agriculture. I'm just adding what Memanki was saying with regarding to the policy. I think it is very much important when we do the policy, or the policymakers, when they review, maybe allow the participation of the smallholder, because they are the one you find that they are, in most cases, they're vulnerable. They are being exposed to many things, and then if they can participate and then be part and parcel of the policy making, it will contribute, because now at the end of the day, you find that maybe they cannot develop because of poor enforcement of some of the regulations or that are in place. But if maybe they participate, being part and parcel of the policy making, I think it will help a lot for them maybe to develop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ntati Dan. I appreciate your comments, and especially for linking up with the other speakers. That's good. We can see things are really coming together, and people are complimenting and expanding comments that have been made before. So thank you very much, Ntati Dan. Can I just ask, Carl, are you still having your hand up? Is there somebody else making a comment from your side?
Yes, no, it's myself, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you.
Regarding the policy measures associated institutions, I'm thinking more specifically that maybe to apply some of those laws and policies, government must maybe bring back some subsidies for contours, runoff, even invasive species, your stock management system for some diseases, which is of national interest. If you protect your soil, you'll increase your yield, which talks to some of the other topics, both in drier areas as well as in wetter areas. You even will protect your natural resource, your soil degradation, and so forth. The same with invasive species who's replacing good pastures. So that would be my input. So yes, one can have all these policies and you can say, but some of the magnitude of maintenance, especially in a high-risk environment of agriculture, that maybe government should really look in some subsidy to assist farmers in maintaining the natural resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. So cross-cutting from the policy measures to some of the other issues we've already addressed in production systems and also in the biodiversity. I'm calling now on all 79 participants. We have a good attendance at this meeting, but we would like to really hear from some of the others. We've maybe heard from only 20 different people. So we will wait for your comments. Please put up your hand. Or if you're struggling with this Zoom system, then please feel free to make your contribution. Yes, I see another hand. Sorry, your name is a bit blocked there. Can you?
Thank you, May. My
Thank
name
you,
is Realeboha.
You have the floor.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I would want to say, having listened to the contributions that have been said throughout the webinar, my greatest concern with most of, I would consider myself as a small farmer from where we stand. The biggest problem that we find is when you are on when we are in commune land, it's very difficult for us to grow in two instances. You might find where we are placed, we are doing broilers, and next to us we have somebody who has sunflower, we have somebody who's growing vegetables, we have other people who have pigs and livestock, let me say that. Now, the question is, how do you restrict your biosecurity when the bylaws of the municipality are not even there to assist you to be able to maintain your biosecurity? And the other problem is, when you are on municipal land, you are only given a lease for 5 years. For instance, if you want to go anywhere else to seek assistance, to get funding or anything else, you are limited, because by the time your application is approved for you to get some kind of loan, you are already way into your 5 years, contract that you have with the municipality. And it's very difficult for you to go back and get another one. So it's very frustrating for most farmers who do not have land to be able to really assist in making sure that we are sustainable, we are able to contribute towards the Free State production, because I think every farmer from wherever they are, young or old, they really have the passion to make sure that whatever they're doing, they're able to make it grow to something much better than what they have it. But there is so many things that you find that it becomes really difficult to move past them, so that you are able to be at a stage where you can say, right, I have been here for 5 years or 10 years. The amount that was given to me when starting this project, now I can leave it and go buy somewhere else where I can still do the same thing. And yes, the policies are there on other things that might work, but you find for most of us that are starting out with no land whatsoever, I find it very discouraging at times, even though I'm not saying everybody is. That's from my point. I find it very discouraging to be able to move from small to sustainable and to commercial, especially if you are not on communal land. So I really would want to see how that could help, and also the trainings that farmers are being given. Sometimes I find them not really assisting in the situations that we are. If maybe when training is being done can be tailor-made for specific people at the specific stage that they are at, maybe we could see some of the bottom farmers who are not really competitive at where they are, seeing them rise up to a better level where they are. So I would just say that that's where I think my take is. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mayor. We appreciate your comments, especially right from the grassroots, or what can I say, from the chicken pen. Good luck with your broilers, and we thank you for really bringing out those points about the difficulties around loans, the difficulty around being able to make that transition from being on common land to having your own enterprise. So we sure that is issues that everyone or many people are really looking at. And those who know me, of course, know that I like to work with the farmers and to do participatory inquiries and sit in the dirt and talk to them. So in this pandemic age, we can only do that via these kind of platforms on Zoom and MS Teams. And so I'm very glad that you were able to contribute today, and especially to say that we need to have these tailor-made trainings, so that we first inquire what kind of level you are at or a farmer is at before we just come and do a top-down training, and to be able to really address the specific issues which are in your own farming systems. So thank you very much. You brought out a number of aspects, and we will capture them in the report. Thank you. I see 2 more hands. Biopelo, would you like to take the floor?
Good day, everybody. I'm not sure if maybe you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear
Hello.
you.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I have some here in Botswana of it from the people from Lesotho, whereby they were given the grazing permit to come and grazing here without the proper consultation. And then that's whereby most of the time we have a problem of we cannot have the clear record of the number of trees. Then the issue whereby you find that most of the farmers around got the farms. They don't go to the farm at all. They are just sitting at the location, renting their farms to the people from Lesotho, whom they come with their laborers or their head boys. And then that man, they cannot employ back to the community, to the local community. And then even if they sell, after maybe fattening process, and then they just take their animals, we are not sure if they take it back to Lesotho or why do they sell it. And then my issue is that if maybe there can be a policy around that grazing, or maybe the how can I put it, the working together between the two countries, because we find that most of the farmers around here, they are not productively using their farms, but then the capacity of the area used by the neighboring country of Lesotho. And then that is having a very serious problem in the food security issue of the area, even in the growing of the farmers around Botshabelo. I'm not sure if maybe I did make my point clear, but then the issue between the two countries, how can we work together? Because we did try with the
Ons het al probeer om met die departement.
those who are working with the foreign people who can come and work here.
Buitelanders praat.
We just fail because they come with the people from Lesotho, being the head boy here, even their animals. After they've been grown, then they are ready for market. They just take it in again, and then they will bring the new one. There is no money that is left for the local people. And then most of the farmers here, or some of the farmers, they're just sitting in the location, renting their farm. And then this is a very food security issue. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Ntate from Botshabelo, for bringing in this international issue as well, and really linking it to foreign affairs and labor control, and really around the grazing as well as the agricultural agronomic production areas. Thank you. We noted your concerns. Okay, we have two more hands. Let me see, Rofilo, would you like to take the floor?
Good day all. My name is Rofilo Mahoma and I'm an extension officer from Ventersburg. I would just like to comment that perhaps it would be in the department's best interest to start incorporating research. I'm extrapolating just on a comment I made in the chat, to include research as well in the funded programs or enterprises that we lobby for every year. This is so that we can include additional farming enterprises such as apiculture, so that they have an opportunity to actually be included as well, because finding funding for other activities that are not as large as crop production but support crop production, or such as animal production, cattle, livestock, the likes, then it helps us with these additional farmers that we come across within our wards, so that they can actually establish themselves as well with a farmer-to-farmer assistant base as well, because it's virtually impossible for anybody who has a beekeeping idea to move on to another level without land, without access to a farmer who's planting one or other certain crop as well. So we can actually link these two. the research part plays a role in us actually establishing what we want to prove, be it increased crop production or improved crop production as well. So that's what I'd just like to highlight. This would also include from a comment that Mr. Armour had made about mushrooms and research that was being made at OFCs regarding mycelia from the mushrooms. Then we can actually incorporate or link the two and have a farmer be funded with their maize products, and then have another farmer be funded with the mushroom production as well. And the innovation between the two commodities can then also be enhanced. So I would just like to see a lot more emphasis on research with the enterprises that are funded, because they don't just run on their own. There's a whole other sector of additional conservation attempts so that we can keep everything going together. So I just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to hear from you as an extension officer, and thank you for your contribution. Yes, today has really been about systems, and so you highlighting some specific systems there that actually make a benefit for each other, the bees and the fish and other contributions into the cropping and livestock systems. But I hear your plea for research, and really when we look at farming systems, then it was always called Farming Systems Research and Extension, and it had on-farm research trials, so they weren't demonstrations of top-down manner, but they were actually allowing the farmers to experiment themselves. And we always like to say that the farmers are the best experimenters because their livelihoods depend on it, but you pleading for some innovation and establishing those linkages even in the project. So thank you very much. We note your point. I have another hand from Nelly. Nelly, would you like to come in?
Thank you so very much, Doctor. My name is Makomapi. Yes, Nelly is my first name, from Parys in the Free State. I would say I represent the education sector because I am involved in the school food nutrition guidance within the primary and the secondary schools in Parys and Fredefort for now. So we have a very great challenge. My plea is, I was so excited when I got this invitation to come and join in. My plea is for the department to assist us to ignite the love of farming or the love of agriculture within the school level or slash community level, because our children have lost, or even our teachers, they have lost the touch of the soil, which I think we need a great help in that. We also, I'm also pleading to the department to assist us in terms of support, in terms of career exhibition, symposiums, and where maybe a nutrition lessons to our learners at schools. And finally, maybe, and in order to so that during the exhibition, maybe there's symposiums, our learners can be able to learn different ways of agriculture, because for them, they just thought agriculture is just getting dirty and there's no career after getting dirty, or there are no different careers involved as well. And the other issue is the innovation as well, where department can be able to assist us to say there's a different ways that we can farm rather than getting dirty. So at the moment, we were just piloting the project called Jalapeu within the 19 schools in the Fezile Dabi, but the aim is to enlarge this project within every school in the Free State. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for your contributions. Yes, very close to my heart to be in the schools and teaching people about the soil and being able to understand the opportunities in agriculture. So thank you for your contribution, and we will note that request and send through to the department, especially around nutrition and agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Do we have other contributions? Our time is running on. We have all 5 questions on the screen right now. Remember, the first one is around policy measures. The second one is around sustainable agricultural production systems. The third one is around human resources and capacity building. The fourth one is around biosecurity in agriculture. And the last one was around promoting biodiversity. And all of these then, so that we can have a more resilient system that can survive shocks and long-term changes. Do we have any more hands? Okay, Jack, I see your hand.
Sorry, I have said a lot already. I just want to add a last thing. I've been involved with a couple of kind of think tanks or Zoom groups now that specifically deal with resilience, local resilience systems and stuff. And one of them is a church group. And another one is, well, actually both of them are sort of church groups originating from churches. And I think at local level, that glue that the local churches and that network that the local churches provide, especially now during COVID times, to distribute food and to get food to the most vulnerable and the people that need it the most, I think is very important. We had a program last year, end of last year, where farmers donated maize on a special delivery code at the agribusiness. The agribusiness pledged then through, it was an AgBiz initiative to mill that grain at cost price. And then they got funders in that helped pay for that milling costs. And then through the local distribution networks of those local of those big agribusinesses to all the local branches, they sent pallets of this non-branded kind of special food aid. And then the local farmers associations, the local churches, the local NGOs then helped spread that to the people that needed it the most. And what came out there was the local community development officers. I think that's what they called the ward level development officers, were the people that really knew in their wards who were the child-aided households, who were the people that were the greatest need. And it was a great it was a great community exercise where people came together that didn't know about each other in the past. And they sort of trusting each other and working together. So that local development trust and local community structures where people know each other and come together. In the commercial farming sector, we've been calling on farmers who are bridge builders, who naturally are already working with the commonage farmers and helping them with dosing and branding and that kind of stuff, that speak to them in the cooperatives and that have built up a relationship. The emerging farmers are looking at these bridge builders and appointing them as mentors to help them when they apply for funds. So we can do a lot at top level, but I think this grassroots bottom up, and we've spoken about that earlier, is so important. And the social glue, the social systems and structures that we need in place to bring people together. And at the moment, the IDPs, for example, of municipalities have been very politically hijacked, and not all sectors really have a chance to make an impact into that IDP, which really addresses the key issues and problems of that local community. So I think our dominant political parties tend to hold out broader participation at this local level. And then also the issue of politics, a job in politics, being a main, people are prepared to kill so that they can have their job in politics, because without that job in politics, they've got nothing else. And a lot of people that maybe aren't educated, aren't trained, or in politics, and they fight for that job, but they're really not, they're spending so much time in the politics that they're not serving the community. So, and then those people, I've got compassion for them, but they need to be rooted out, that you've got real people there that are really real people that are really interested in serving their communities, that are in those political positions. So this is much broader than I think maybe the issues, the questions asked, but it's the social systems that are in place and the grassroots structures that are there to facilitate broad participation, that real issues can be brought in from into the IDPs and the plans that are in place, and the churches and local community organizations play a big role in that. In the Free State, we don't have, well, I say we don't have a lot of NGOs, but apparently there are thousands of NGOs in the Free State that are doing this at a very local level. But those small NGOs aren't really linked to a coordinated system of NGOs that really gives those small NGOs a voice and a lobby at provincial and national level. So those systems are very important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jack, for bringing in those like informal community level situations, and yet seeing how much they can actually do. I think we really have to look at that community level and understand that there are a lot of opportunities there, informal kind of groups. But then how do they manage to apply for these kind of funds? Any others that we have a comment? Yes, we've still got 73 participants. Somebody else who wants to make a comment? We have a few more minutes for somebody who hasn't had a chance yet. Really, this dialogue is about being able to collect information at grassroots level for the Free State and be able to send it through to the national level dialogue. So I see two more hands. Tati Dan.
Morning, Prof. Yeah, my comment is regarding the sustainable production system. I think we have many production systems that are in place. You know, my major concern is the people that are driving this system. Do we put the right people maybe to drive those systems? Because at the end of the day, if we don't have the right people maybe in driving those systems, we'll always have the problem. We're not going to achieve the predetermined objectives. For example, if you look at the municipality, they were having the IDP, which is Integrated Development Plan, which encompasses all the departments in terms of the planning. But now you'll find that maybe the participation in those processes, you find that at some stage you don't have maybe people that are having the skills to drive the planned, maybe the planned projects. So my inputs is when we develop the system, we need to come up with the people that understand, that will be able maybe to explain even to the beneficiaries or everybody that will be participating, so that at the end of the day, they should be part and parcel from the starting of the process until the process achieves its predetermined objectives. Though that is my inputs with regarding to sustainable production.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. We appreciate your comments and we noted them. There was somebody else who had their hand up and now they seem to have disappeared from my screen. If there's somebody else who can help me from the organizing or note takers, whether there's somebody could see who was having their hand up. When I'm sharing the screen, it's not so easy to see who's there. I'm sure it was somebody that was not contributing before. A last call for comments. Anybody? Comments on any one of the 5 questions? Somebody who hasn't contributed?
Can I comment, Prof?
Yes, come in there. Thank you.
I was trying to raise my hand.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Go ahead.
No problem. No, thank you very much, Prof. I think I'm from the department. I'm the head of the department. But I thought it will be good for me just to raise certain issues that are related to the questions that you have raised here. But also,
okay, thank you.
Try to bring things into perspective. I think what is important, Prof, is the whole issue of our readiness in terms of awareness. You know, I was looking at the challenges that we are having, and I was like, are we waiting for a challenge or a situation to happen, and then we become reactional? So we need to improve on that awareness that we are embarking on, particularly at that level where we are saying this is the smallholder, the subsistence farming. The second thing that I think we need to also look into when it comes to the production systems now. One of the things that that is beating us is when it comes to the research that we are still using now. How certain and sure that they are still relevant and can resist and perform well when we are confronted with climate change and so on and so forth. So that is another thing that we need to look into. I was looking at the presentation from Limpopo in one of the sessions, and what they did, they then researched on the cultivars that smallholders are still using, that the subsistence farmers are still using, and the commercial sector. And I can tell you, that is the area that we need to look into. When it comes to the backyard, I'll combine the backyard farming with the institutions. There was an issue around the schools, the clinics, and the schools more especially. We need to make sure that, yes, indeed, remember, there were agricultural subjects taught at schools. But currently, as it stands, we only have about 5 agricultural schools in the province that are still teaching agriculture, that are still having some piece of land for practicals and so on. And I think over and above the 5 schools that are having farms themselves, you need to introduce agriculture as a subject so that there can be that awareness, there can be that understanding of farming in general. Now, when it comes to this goes to the school, we have identified 50 schools where we are saying we need to ensure that there is production. There are tunnels producing vegetables for school feeding schemes, but also to make sure that the learners understand agriculture and they take it home for that matter. There are also other issues around the common ages. Remember, common ages were introduced precisely as a stepping stone to graduate. Therefore, there was an issue of saying the kind of farming there, it's a sort of a mixed farming with no biosecurities and so on and so on. That is an issue of a bylaws because common ages are managed by the municipalities, and we have introduced a policy in terms of the farming categories. If you are farming with a small stock, if you are farming with vegetables, if you are farming with piggeries, these are the guides that the municipality has to comply to. The issue there is the issue of the bylaws and the enforcement. I think earlier there was an issue around the enforcement. How best can we ensure that if a practice has been put into place, then there is that element of enforcement in it. And I think other issues that have been raised around the production systems and so on, those are the things that are mostly welcomed. There was also an issue that was raised, I think it was from Botshabelo, which was talking in the main about the threatening of the food security in general. And these are some of the issues that I think at a level of government and at the municipal level, we will have to look into. I thought that I must just make those contributions. Prof, I'm sorry I was in and out, and I might be out again now, but thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ntati. Okay. Yes, one more thing.
No, I just wanted to also highlight the issue of categorization, farmer categorization. Yes, I think it's Dan who was talking about that issue. Yes, if we understand clearly what is a subsistence farmer and what is a smallholder farmer and what is a commercial farmer, we are able to bring in different systems into place with that understanding. And that is something that I think sometimes we tend to confuse. We talk about the commercial farmers, mix it with a subsistence farmer, and also mix it with a smallholder farmers, while there is a clear definition and a clear cut in terms of those categorizations. And thank you very much, Prof.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I see one final last hand. I think the organizers are going to cut me off any minute. I think we've had adequate time for everybody to make their contributions. Can we have a countdown? 5, 4, 3, 2.
Thank you, Prof.
1.
Can I come in? Hello?
Yes. Okay,
thank you very much. Yes, it's Zenzila here from CUT.
Okay,
Dr. Kecha, if I have to put it that way. I have two things that I wish to share on the topics, issue of the human resource and also the how we can utilize our biodiversity, particularly on the issue of vulnerability to climate change and all. I think if the department can assist us by recognizing technical experts in different disciplines such as that of plant stress and also for just to communicate on policies and developing some mitigating strategies, approaches towards challenges that the food sector is encountering. If they can recognize experts like myself here at CUT, it would be of best to come into play. I've approached a few of colleagues there by the department, but I'm still waiting for them to counter me, to come to talk to that. Secondly, on an issue of human resource needs, I think contribution towards from farmers on issues relating to acceptance on students who are doing their will be of high stance if they can allow them to do their practical, just to assist to respond to issues relating to food systems. It will be of best. I wanted to mention those two. I actually came late because I was in another meeting, but seeing the questions, I think if we can take into account our current students to conduct their will in different farms allocated as per Free State, and also take into account experts in universities to communicate to challenges that the department are encountering. I'm referencing this to myself mostly based on my availability to come into play for policy making on climate-related changes, as per what I conducted in my previous two studies, and what I'm currently publishing. Thank you very much, Prof.
Okay, thank you. Somebody just got in before we got the gong. Do we count again? Ntati Kobelo, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, gone. Over to the chairperson. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. That was very enlightening, and I think that was very exciting to hear all those insights that came from different stakeholders on the floor, including the HOD. They're providing some very good advice around also proper identification of farmers. We are encouraging all participants to continue in this process and to send all their comments, or if they have any written submission they want to contribute as part of the provincial dialogue, they can send that to Professor Sue Walker, which we will share the email address on the commentary section. May I then ask,
excuse me, sorry, Safifo, we need to share the rapporteur's address and everything also, please.
We will certainly do that. We will certainly do that. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Prof. May I then ask Mangi Ramabinyane to just come on and just give us very briefly the high level, some of the key things that have come out into this discussion we've had today, taking into account also some very good presentation that was made earlier on by Fori as well as Professor Su. May I ask you to then take the floor, Mangi?
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to give a summary, high-level summary of the discussions today. One has tried to note everything down, but I think through a final write-up, we'll fairly cover everything that was discussed today. And let me also then just indicate to say this was very, very, very important. I like the energy that went into it. I felt the anxiety across the platform in terms of how overwhelming food security issues are. You could hear each speaker speaking with emotions. It's a heartfelt matter that if we are not very careful, we might end up not being able to feed ourselves if we don't take this matter seriously. But I can assure you the energy that went into the discussion, it was not like people don't want to participate. It was the emotions that they were going through when they're beginning to look at this. I want to say maybe this platform has been very, very good. This provincial dialogue, talking to the hearts of the people and those that are directly involved and affected across all the institutions that were involved. But let me quickly indicate the issues that came out and nicely out in outright. Starting from the opening by the HOD with that quote of our former president, Nelson Mandela, that overcoming poverty is not an issue of charity. It's not like doing anybody a favor, but it's an action that requires justice. Just like apartheid did require justice, including slavery. If you're not very careful, we are likely to be regressing back towards slavery and other things, maybe cannibalism at some point, but we hope not to go there. Hence this issue, maybe thanks to COVID, that we begin to address the issues of the food system, how efficient the food system is, how effective it is, how can we enhance food production and adequate food distribution, safety food availability and access within a changing environment. And I think the food state indicated very well that we wanted to look at resilience, shocks, as well as stresses, so that we begin to talk to the real issue, the real challenge. And then I hope and I believe that listening to the discussions, we even covered issues within these other 4 other topics that we did not address. MEC's talk as well, you could actually also feel his emotion in terms of what this dialogue should address. The issue of the 3rd wave, which is now upon us, encouraging us to make sure that we register for vaccinations. The issue of food security, if not addressed adequately, might lead to poverty, inequality, and also some compliance issues. I really liked the way he harped very strongly on compliance issues, particularly to water, discouraging illegal water use. But I think in that very notion, highlighting the fact that water still needs to be adequately redistributed to other many potential farmers out there, or many farmers that do not have access to water, and encourage us to actually get into this dialogue meaningfully. And I think we have achieved that. Not forgetting the fact that we must maintain the regulations, sanitize, and also safe distance. And then also want to talk to Professor Sue Walker. Thank you, Prof, so much for leading this discussion. I like the brevity of the presentation and sending it straight to the point. The issues of the food systems being an issue of persons, individuals, households, businesses, and also being a process of growing food, of making food, awareness raising, quite a number of process issues that actually affect us as individuals in our various how we are organized or where we are in our day-to-day life. And then the issue of private partnerships, private-public partnerships, stakeholder involvement, and also the issue of vulnerability in order to plan for future stresses so that we make the food system adaptable to whatever changes in the environment occurring, be them economic stresses, institutional, and then action-oriented as well as environment. She took us through the concept of resilience, showing us all the aspects of it, and the Millennium Development Goals of all those 17 to 18, I think, elements of what we seek to address in seeking to make sure that our food systems are sustainable. And the questions, we have noted all the questions, maybe to highlight a few. I think we covered everything well. So the first question, comment or question in terms of how do we involve the youth? How do we involve the youth? How do we make agriculture attractive to young people? Because we know for a fact that our farming community or players in the food systems, most of them are actually aging, the average age being at 55 to 58. Starting from there, that we need to then begin to talk to the young people getting involved in the agriculture sector. And I don't think we have a choice in this regard anymore, say, because now it is by law now that each and every role player or department, government, private sector, we all are now obliged by the current administration that we have to begin to make sure that there's youth inclusion, and that will require a lot of skill development training, as we also highlighted later on in the discussion. Matt Jacobs, the issue of information being made as current as possible, so that we talk to the real issues as they come upon us. It's very, very critical. I know there's an exercise called SAVAG in the food security space, made by government to begin to even help us to measure, even at the lowest level of the economy, local municipalities, who is affected, what is happening in that space. And I think we have to look at that as well in terms of how do we then make sure that we can measure what is happening around us and be current with all the changes that are happening around us. And the issue of water, as highlighted by the MEC, came up here also, and that will be attended to as part of our report. The security issue is very, very, very important. It's not only just the business itself that is actually, we need to make sure that the vulnerabilities are reduced, the stresses and the shocks, it adapts to them, but also the personal risk of the farmers themselves where they live becoming very important. I think I see also a policy issue coming out of that in terms of the kind of subsidies, perhaps maybe at policy level, how these can be addressed as well. In the Free State, I think we already have got the risk management solutions. We should look at all the risks that the rural communities and the farming communities are faced with broadly and across the sector. If that can be elevated as a policy issue to an extent, in the light of what, let's say, Fori has indicated in terms of, can we look at the issue of subsidizing those farmers or those businesses that are just trying to assist government to make sure that we improve resilience and reduce the effects of degradation of land, protection of the resources, and many other areas. And Dr. Ama, we always appreciate your input every time. Yeah, the wisdom that comes with it, only if we can translate such into programs that can be implementable at the lowest levels. As I have indicated, that our take in this thing was to look at the issues from bottom up, and we know that businesses, entrepreneurs, as well as big business or big commercial farmers, anybody in that value chain will always see opportunities for business expansion or any other thing. But what is most critical is when each and every member of the community knows his rights, is aware, and knows what he can do at the lowest level of vulnerability, being the individual, the household, and the communities. Yeah, basic training in the schools, that has been repeated again by one of the latest speakers in terms of training at the basic level, school level, and teach the people, the students and the children to be appreciative of agriculture as an important part of the society. And that will also be looked at. Yeah, I'm trying to go through and cover. Yeah, the example given by Mimi also in terms of her involvement in the pecan industry is also noted there. It's gonna find expression in our report. I think, yeah, Karel, in terms of the issues of barrier to entry to the sector in terms of food safety, biosecurity, gap requirements, compliance being such a challenge and a barrier for small-scale producers or smallholder farmers or anybody who wants to get into the sector if you want to maintain food safety and resilience across the board in terms of farmer categorization, in terms of different sizes of businesses in the agro processing and throughout the value chain is quite important as well. Yeah, the biodiversity, I think we need to do some work there as a food state house in terms of, I mean, I think we've got a lot of opportunities in terms of niche opportunities based on the biodiversity. We may have lost some, maybe because of ignorance or climate change and many other issues, but I think there are still more opportunities. So this is one area that we have to look at those. And this was re-emphasized again by Mayor Mahomo in terms of looking at innovative ways of in intercropping, mixed farmings, as well as niche opportunities like beekeeping, and then mixing mushroom with maize production. Prickly pear, the agave in Kharib is one such opportunity in terms of what we can look at in terms of the biodiversity that we have in the Free State. Yeah, and also the whole issue of insurance in that biodiversity for those traditional crops that we normally grow there. Are we able to can also support up and coming farmers in terms of securing and making the production system sustainable? And the monoculture issue came up as well. We know all those practices want to encourage conservation agriculture, smart agriculture. It was emphasized by the chairperson there. Pomegranates and mushrooms were also elected as one of those opportunities. Yeah. I think the issue of research and why don't we subsidize research maybe from the private sector so as to assist government in terms of making sure this talks to established farmers that still really need research and innovation, the kind that maybe won't be prioritized by government. It will be very, very helpful because R&D, research and development, is quite expensive. And venture, maybe government support in that regard is required. Yes. Policy issues. I think we went to town on this on these ones, Chair, in terms of quite a number of. I don't even know how to go through all of them. The issue of farmers not reinvesting back to the sector is also a glaring point that needs to be encouraged. There is a policy issue in the area that needs to be highlighted and then be addressed in a way in terms of maybe the threat of the land question that we're discussing now, expropriation of land that is encouraging established farmers or traditionally white farmers to reinvest. We need to get a balance where somehow they and then the research question I already have indicated. And then some other policy issue matters included accountability in the area of the use of commodities, urbanization of agriculture. So there are a lot of challenges in terms of compliance and barriers to entry and exit, and also sustainability in terms of permits, in terms of the land, the implementation of the laws and regulations that govern the community's commitment by the municipality, commitment by any role player that has got a role to play in there. The issue of alignment of various institutions that are involved in a particular food system is very, very important. In most cases, we come to this kind of discussions and forums, and then we just leave it there. We go back to our own comfort zones and forget the commitments that we made. We need to actually check up our resources and our expertise and make sure that we don't just present this kind of things at these platforms, but never get to be implemented. So that the whole issue of production systems not being the same as the McKenna as indicated also need to be evaluated carefully in terms of how to make sure that whatever production system is sustainable, and then the vulnerabilities, stresses and shocks they are then addressed adequately and provided for. The young farmer really was emphasizing the issue of communities and how the production systems are mixed on communities with less regard or consideration be made of biosecurity issues, and the land tenure security systems or permits that are granted, they are not sustainable. to make sure that the users of such facilities of land parcels are productive and they are making livelihoods, their livelihood security is guaranteed and growth, so that we can exit that system and then make sure that they can then grow and expand on their own elsewhere. The grazing permit story of Kabelo is quite worrying, and I think as the prof has indicated, is an international matter issue that needs to be addressed as a matter of agency, perhaps making sure that there is some form of agreement between the neighboring countries and how this can be dealt with. And absentee farming, I think I hear what the speaker was trying to say there, to see that just as much as people have access to them, but not just farming themselves, but they're leasing them out to other users. I know a person has got the right to do as he pleases with whatever property he has, but I think in this regard of food security as well as sustainable food systems, the issue of who the farmer is coming out clear, and also the responsibility of the farmer in terms of a policy issue coming in terms of absentee farming. How can that be dealt with and guarantee food security as well as sustainable food systems in that space? Yeah. Nekomate, thanks very much. In terms of the issues that you raised from the school point of view, how we can actually at the local level, using the schools, using the communities around us, make sure that we encourage, we sort of trigger that interest in the agriculture sector, because there has to be a concept that was called the multifunctional character of agriculture. It's a cultural issue, it is an economic issue, the social issue. We need to reinstill back those principles through maybe career exhibitions, curriculum, consideration by the schools in terms of agriculture. And we appreciate the Jalapeo, the 90 schools that are involved. We definitely gonna come closer there and see what is working so that we can replicate across the province. I think that was a very good input from the schools. And how can we actually look into innovative markets? The school feeding schemes are a ready market for the local farmers, the household producers there. How can we harness all of those resources at that local level in a township, in urbanization of agriculture, and making sure that the schools benefit directly and begin to really improve resilience and also contribute towards sustainable food systems in South Africa or in the province or in the locality. Yeah, the example by Nutritious was quite brilliant in terms of building bridge builders. Definitely, that is a typical example of a private-public partnership. You know what, if you can give power back to the people, they're very hungry, that they can see opportunity and involvement in such initiatives, and the private sector is already there contributing in a different way. And I think this one was talking also to the fact that I want to highlight the IGP process. We are also collectively responsible to make sure that this IGP process serves the people, serves the community, serves us in how we can begin to encourage local economic development using sustainable and resilient food systems. Just from food, I think we can actually support the local economy through the municipality arrangements. The HOD has said it all to say that sometimes you don't even have to look any further. These things are just in front of us, but maybe we have to relook our approach to them in terms of who the farmer is, our approach to them, how to make sure and we enforce some of the between our policies and make sure that raise awareness and make sure that people understand what government is coming from and what in the local municipality can be achieved in terms of promoting sustainable food systems. Dr. Kecha, yeah, Kecha, I think also, yeah, you are an institution, a tertiary institution that we can't wait to make use of in terms of all these challenges and all these comments that we make here. How do we put them into a plan of action and use the expertise within organizations like yourself and make sure that, you know, we make agriculture cool to the youth, look at the expertise, the technical expertise that in the institutions, and train farmers on various elements of most of the things that were raised here, climate change being the main, and in particular the youth. And training, I think it's a compulsory, should be compulsory that all people that are training in agriculture have got practical experience by being placed on farms. And it talks back to the point that was raised also of how do we use the graduates that have just qualified and give them the practical experience of what they studied, and also make them ready for the ever-changing market environment in terms of labor requirements. Chair, I think that's all I can say. I'm trying to summarize, and it was not easy to summarize because all speakers raised very, very important things. So maybe in reporting back and putting our report as a state, we will address almost everything that was raised by the public. And I think with this, I want to thank the chairperson for giving me the opportunity, and the organizers for actually opting for me to do the rapporteuring. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Memangi. That was very insightful, and I think that was a very excellent summary of all the discussion that we have had today. I would like then to thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for participating in this first provincial engagement. The greatest gratitude goes to Dr. Masideng, the HOD of the province, for ensuring that this, together with Mamvangi, Titi, for organizing and ensuring that this dialogue becomes a success. I think the importance of agriculture in the province is really reflective with the participation also of the MSc Undadebulwan, who gave us some opening remarks. And ladies and gentlemen, you've provided a very good insight and comments and inputs into the development of the provincial dialogue, particularly around the theme of building those resilient food systems against vulnerabilities and any other shocks that may be facing the food system. This will continue to other provinces where we're building up towards a national synthesis dialogue that will take place in the provincial, or the indicative date at this stage is the 16th of July, which will then ensure that it'll build up to the pre-summit of the UN, where different nations across the world will be participating, and it's set for the 26th to the 28th of July. This then gives us a sense in terms of the strict timelines that we will have to work against them in ensuring that we capture as much inputs in building a national food system, leveraging on the private and the public partnerships in the country. We did mention that those that continue to contribute in the provincial dialogue and continue to contribute into the inputs can be in contact with Professor Siwoka, who will then assist in terms of consolidating the provincial inputs. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our national dialogue, and I would like to thank you very much for your participation. The meeting is adjourned. God bless.